none, we move into consideration of the presidential veto regarding an act concerning the spring 2013 elections.
All right. Are there any questions? Did everybody have a chance to read through what I wrote? Does anybody disagree? All right.
Does anybody like to recognize for debate?
Point of information, do we have four?
Yes, we do. Seeing none, we move into a vote. All those in favor of overturning? All those in favor of overturning President Becky's veto, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. Abstentions? Nay. The vote fails? Next, let's move into approval of minutes from March 13, 2013. Is there a motion? Sergeant, is there a second? You were too slow. Rana. Are there any questions? Yes, we have a sergeant at arms, by the way, so if anything gets out of hand. Are there any questions regarding this? Any debate? Seeing none, we move into a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Passes. Thank you, Kayla. Next, we move into reports of the executive. President Beckis.
All right. So last week was spring break. I was in Mexico, so I haven't really done much since then. I got a really bad sunburn. We've been working on the rec facility stuff. There's going to be 2 public forums being held. I think April 17th, and the other one's the 16th, or the 18th. I'll get you more information. We're still working on setting those up. Besides that, the Yukon Cycles bikes were officially transferred yesterday, so we no longer have ownership of those. Anything else going on? No, Jig and I are working on some legislation to provide in the upcoming days and weeks. Also, we just had a chance in exec to take a look at the new athletic logos and the new university word marks. So we've been brought into that process. Unfortunately, we can't show them to everybody here, but if he did say if you wanted to take a look or if you have any questions or concerns, to contact him directly, and I have some of his business cards if you guys want to come up and ask later on tonight. But other than that, I can't say that they looked good. I was happy with them. I mean, it's a logo. I'm not a graphic designer, so I'm not really sure, what looks good and what looks bad. But it's an important change for us, I think. So, are there any questions for me?
Any questions for the president?
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, President Beckis. Next, we move to report of the vice president. Vice President Patel.
I'm a little more artistic, so I'll comment on the logo. In my, I guess, little bit of a professional experience, I really liked it. It's a logo, so it is what it is. But I really thought that was really impressive. So that was my opinion. As Stephen mentioned, we are working on the legislation. So I had a draft, but it obviously was just a draft, and there was some concern over the language of the legislation. So we're going to try to bring forth a cleaned version of the legislation, and I think I'll come and present it at the next caucus. So you could have some time to think about it, and then we'll vote on it the Senate after. And it deals with adding amending the House bill regarding the Board of Trustees requirement for an undergraduate students, and basically the legislation is going to say that we as students ask that there be an additional trustee on the board of or additional undergraduate trustees on the Board of Trustees. So we'll have that ready for next week.
Are there any questions for the Vice President? Thank you, Vice President Patel. Next, we move to report of the comptroller. Councilor Shane.
very short report since we were on break last week. We didn't spend a whole lot of money. One thing that you guys should be aware of though, especially if you are part of a tier 2 organization, inventory reports are due in less than 2 weeks. So we will be contacting tier 2 organizations and going through the USG's inventory ourselves. So if you broke anything or lost anything that belongs to USG over the past year, I'll probably be coming after you in the next 2 weeks. So other than that, that's it.
Are there any questions for the comptroller? Yes, Chairperson Giordino.
I can pull it up on my computer, but it's around $3,000 and change.
Are there any other questions for the comptroller? Thank you, Comptroller Shane. Next we move to the report of the Chief of Staff. Chief of Staff Shay.
Hello. Only thing I have is the banquet. Sorry about that bad email. Brittany sent out another one, so just check that out. It works this time, I promise. And yeah, that's it. You can bring a guest, and the food's gonna be great. And yeah, that's about it. So everyone should come.
Are there any questions for the Chief of Staff? Chief of Staff Shay. Next we move to the report of the Speaker.
Hey guys, couple of things. Should have probably thought about what I was gonna say before I got up here. Hang on. All right, yeah. So the Senate Meeting continues to do strong work with the laundry initiative, which is very impressive. It's looking for technology vendors right now. We met with Logan Trimble, who's the director of Res Life, the Thursday before spring break. Talked to him for about an hour. Brought in Automatic Laundry, who is all contractual laundry services, which we don't want to get involved with. I think was a consensus that Anthony and I, or Senator Minetti and I, came up with. But we're still working on it, and Res Life continues to be enthusiastic about this, which is the great news in this initiative. Number 2, for the FYE initiative, I still have yet to get in contact with Ronnie, which is on me. I'm really busy. But other than that, not much going on. I didn't do much over spring break for USG. So looking to start working again enthusiastically. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay, we'll move into report of the judiciary then. There's no report. We'll move into report of the committees. AC Affairs, Chairperson Ives.
Hello. I hope everyone had a good spring break. I went to Iowa. It was lovely. Iowa's a great place, not just farms. Go to Des Moines. There are people there. The logo was awesome. I enjoyed it. I think that it's definitely something to look forward to. What was my other one? 24-hour library hours are most likely going to be happening. So the week before finals week, the library will be open that week for 24 hours as well. And a big shout out to Nicole, who saved my life last night with my bonus problem for accounting. That's it.
Are there any questions for the Chairperson? Thank you, Chairperson Ives. Next we move into the report of External Affairs. Vice Chair Sargent.
Hey guys, how are you? Hopefully you had a wonderful break. I know I did. It was a little too short, but just a quick, I got a text from Chairperson Daniels. Just for the members, he just wants to check in with you guys to see how our individual projects are going, and we'll have our normal meeting times at 3 this Friday. So that's all we have for you guys this week.
Any questions for the Vice Chair? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Next we move into report of Student Affairs. I'm sorry, the State Funding Board. I'm sorry. Funding Board, Chairperson Giordino.
Would you like to give the report on it?
Yeah, please. Just begin with thanks.
Yes.
just start off by saying budgets were submitted on Monday for fall 2013. We got 378 budgets submitted. There'll probably be a few more rolling in if people have good reasons for extensions. So we have 2 legislative requests today. One of them was reviewed by the full board. The other one, because of break, we weren't able to meet as a board to review it. So that one is basically my opinion on it, and you can ask the funding board members who are also here to provide opinions on it if they differ from me, but it's pretty straightforward. So,
Those, but everyone has those in their inbox now, so you want to pull out your laptops.
so for the first one is for Yukon Taekwondo team. The request, it's for a coach. The request was not made during the spring 2013 budgeting session. And for that reason, the board as a whole determined that it was not an emergency. And accordingly, the funding board recommends that the group not be funded for the request. Paperwork is in order though. For the swim team, they have a trip request. A trip is coming up shortly. Paperwork is in order. But I would recommend that senators determine with the group whether, or the reason why it was not applied for in the spring 2013 budgeting session. I think that would be a good question to ask. The adjusted recommended amount that the funding board, or that I have recommended for the legislation to be funded at is at 60% of the request. And that would be at $2,923.20, and I can bring that number back up when you're actually considering the request. So does anybody have any questions on it? The groups themselves will present the full requests.
Are there any questions for the chairperson? Yeah.
We have 2. Oh, for the other one. 378.
Any other questions for the chairperson? Thank you, Chairperson Reed. Next, we move into report of student affairs, Chairperson Lowe.
Just a reminder about the campus cleanup day and the safety walk. I have heard from 2 people about not being able to attend, so if I have not heard from you and you don't show up, there's gonna be problems. So all of you guys on this entire side of the room will be there, actually. That works out. And then, anything else? I liked the logo. It was nice. That's all I got for you. Can't tell you that.
Any other questions for the chairperson? Yes, and who's gonna have the dates and times for this event?
April 18th, which is 12 to 3, I want to say. 12's the important part. What? 18th and 13th. 13th is a Thursday, like 5 p.m. 5:30 to 7:30. Were you asking a question? Sorry. Okay, you're telling them. Yeah, it's fine. Works out.
Any other questions to the chairperson? Thank you, Chairperson Lowe. Next, we move into new business. An act concerning funding and Taekwondo club. Who's the senator that is sponsoring that funding request? Is there a senator?
We're coming. I think we're somewhere like it's like fair enough. Okay, an act concerning funding for UConn Taekwondo. Whereas the undergraduate student government is charged with improving the experience of the student body through the funding of undergraduate and student initiatives, whereas UConn Taekwondo has requested funding in order to pay their longtime coach, Master Waleed Youssef, whereas this club opened to all students has had a clear and steady improvement thanks to, in part, their reliable and dependable educator, whereas the above-mentioned initiative has a high likelihood of success and bears clear merit to the student body, therefore be it resolved, the undergraduate student government allocates $4,000 for the above-mentioned initiative of UConn Taekwondo. So, UConn Taekwondo is they compete at the D3 level, but recently they've been moving into a D2 level of competition, and that's in large part thanks to Mr. Youssef, who travels about 45 minutes in order to make it to all of the practices for UConn Taekwondo. They have about 40 active members. They do a lot of fundraising in order to raise the money. They normally apply for money to pay their coach. They were missing a roster, is that correct? They were missing a roster last semester, and that is why they were denied funding. So now they kind of have $4,000 that they owe him and that he deserves that they have to come up with. And Vinny, did you want to add anything? No? Okay, well that's pretty much why we would consider it an emergency. I motion to approve this, to pass it. I guess she was quick enough this time. Yeah.
Are there any questions regarding the funding? Yeah.
Did Taekwondo apply for this in the spring budget session?
No, they did not.
Yeah.
In the letter of intent, it says the services would be from January to I think May or April. So like has he been coming consistently and whatnot?
Vinny, do you want to come up here? This is the CFO of Taekwondo, Mr. Vinny Franchen. And I'm yielding the floor to him.
Yeah, even though he isn't getting paid right now, he's still coming. And we told him that we were going to try to figure it out and see what we can do.
Are there any other questions regarding this motion? Yes, Senator Benini. Senator Bryant, in that order.
We believe that we had it beforehand, but because USG funding changed their application for funding, we didn't know that we had it until last second, and that's why we couldn't apply for it.
Has there been any effort to fundraise on your side?
Yeah, we are actually having, for the women's lacrosse team, the Depot campus, we are doing a fundraiser for foods, and we're going to sell in concession stand.
Anybody else for questions? Seeing none, we move into debate. Thank you, senators. Thank you. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for debate? Yes, Senator Ron.
Hi guys. One thing I would want to say about this is that the organization has, I guess, the contractor or the person that they want the coach the money for. I guess he might have been under the impression that he's going to be get this money through USG. All right. And then the other thing I would like to bring up is that Taekwondo was still having him come to every one of their practices as is stated in their contract. And this is us paying him for things that he already did from January up until now, and then whatever few weeks remaining through April and May. So I guess this comes back to like that idea of us paying for someone else's mistake, that we're compensating whatever time he's already given and paying him for that, even though Taekwondo had the ability to apply for this in the spring budgeting system. Is
there anybody else who would like to be recognized for debate? Yes, Senator
Violet. I'm going to build on a little bit of what Senator Rana said. So I'm not quite sure if this should be funded. So basically, once again, we're looking at reciprocal funding, but also there's a couple other factors. One is just the budgetary constraints we're currently under as an organization, as well as the fact that I feel it could be a possibility with so many active members. If 40 members are very active, and they were all willing to pitch in a little bit, this could be reasonably offset, if that makes any sense. So I'm not quite sure if once again delving into this is necessarily the best idea to solve this problem. So thanks.
Is there anybody else who is around?
Okay. All right. So in the letter of intent, it says that the dates of their practices, or the contract is supposed to be from January 22nd to May 3rd, and they practice on Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. So based on that, they would have had 25 practices done. So that would be the 25 practices that we would be technically funding retroactively. And they have still currently 17 practices to go. So I think a solution that we can come up with that works for us and them, including our budgetary restrictions and their need for some money, would be to possibly fund the 17 practices that are left that the coach would need to come to, and maybe cut the funding down from 4,000 to some smaller number.
Is there anybody else who would like to be recognized for debate? Is there a motion?
So this request is for $4,000, and we have $4,030.92 left. So if we were to accept it right now, then the second group that's coming up may probably have like no choice. So I was wondering if, am I allowed to motion to postpone it until after the next act concerning budgeting? Does that make sense? Motion to table. Table until the next act concerning.
So the motion is made, is there a second? Table? Yeah. Second for me. Yeah.
You could go back to the table item and then say
Yeah.
section of business. Right?
Is there anybody else who would second? Is there anybody else who would like to ask questions regarding the motion to table? Is there any debate? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. All those in favor of motioning to table this item of business until after student club is considered, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions. Next, we move into an act concerning funding of contact on the club. Swim club.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. So this is an ad concerning emergency funding for UConn Swim Club. Whereas the undergraduate student government is charged with improving the experience of the student body through the funding of undergraduate student initiatives. Whereas UConn Swim Club has requested funding for their initiative to attend the East Coast Swim Club's championship tournament in Atlanta, Georgia. Whereas the tournament serves as the club's only national meet and provides an excellent opportunity to showcase UConn's talent on a large scale. Whereas the above-mentioned initiative has a high likelihood of success and bears clear merit to the student body. Whereas the UConn Swim Club has requested $4,872 for the sole purpose of requiring a lodging for 42 members. Therefore, be it resolved that the undergraduate student government allocate $4,872 for the above-mentioned initiative of UConn Swim Club. I'm going to yield the floor to Maria, who is the president, for debating questions. Is that kosher?
Yeah.
Motion to yield the floor.
No.
Oh.
Wait for a question.
Yes, you're just going to answer the question you want to say.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely say something correct.
So I'm assuming Senator Bosco motions.
there any, is there a second? Give it to, yeah, I'll give it to Grant because he was trying to hack it or go over it. Now you may.
All right, I know that there is a question being raised about someone that asked why we didn't apply originally for the spring 2013 funding. We actually did apply for that spring 2013 funding. USG didn't let any of the public in on how they were going to make that decision. So since we had been funded fully the past 6 years for this meet, what we did was we applied for the full amount that we would need to go, assuming that if they couldn't give us the full amount, they would give us a smaller amount or as much as they could so that USG would see how much we need to pay for the trip fully and then give us a less amount of money. But when we saw that we were rejected outright, we were a little bit shocked. So we went into the USG offices and someone there explained to us that what they did was get the smallest amount from each club in first and then just completely cut the highest ticket items for their budget requests. So since ours was obviously one of the highest requests, it got cut out completely. So that's why we're here for the emergency session. That being said, to give you a little bit of information, unless you have questions about that first, I don't know.
Quick question. So to clarify, it was cut due to.
It was cut because we had one of the highest amounts out of everyone that requested money, and so it just got cut completely. Okay, to give you an idea of what this competition is like, it's at Georgia Tech, which is in Atlanta. They are home of the 1996 Olympic pool. It's really cool to go there because Michael Phelps and other famous swimmers have the pool records. It's a really high quality facility. Any team can compete, but each event has a qualifying time for men and women that you have to get to even be able to compete in the meet. And on top of that, there's trials and finals, which means there's preliminaries first, and then if you make a top number, you get to come back and compete for medals and points, and that goes into team standings and overall team scores. They score the men and the women individually, and then everyone as a whole. We've had many medalists in years past, including gold medalists. Last year we got 4th place, even though our whole team couldn't attend because of their final exams and everything. So we really want to see how we could do on a national stage now that our team is even bigger, even better. We really think that it would be really great for the university in general to represent UConn on a stage in front of over 60 other schools, and the meet is growing every year. We are actually known in the world of collegiate club swimming. People are afraid to swim us. We've won meets by over 500 points. We wish we could have an opportunity to swim against D3 schools because we're a force to be reckoned with and we're really proud of it. This is one of our few meets where we don't win by 500 points. We have a lot of competition at the top. It's where people get best times for their whole life, let alone the season, which is crazy for club swimming. It's where team records are set every year. It's really the most important meet of our entire season. It's what we work for all year. The reason why we practice 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, and the reason why we have our other meets throughout the year is so that we can be ready for this one meet. It's the most important meet. We've been to it for the past 7 years. Our team has only existed for 7 years, but we've gone to nationals every single year, and we've always made a really good showing, and this year is expected to be the best we've ever done. I never swam at the same time as the founders because they are long graduated by now, but I'm still in touch with them. I feel like I know them personally. They're still in touch with our club, and I know I will be too forever as long as our team is in existence, even once I graduate. We have been doing a lot of fundraising on our own, but it's sort of limiting because we didn't find out that we weren't going to get funded until the beginning of second semester. In years past, it's been really easy. We just apply, we get the trip fully funded, and then we're done. So this was a brand new experience for us. Figuring out how to even do fundraising has been a huge challenge, and we've been working on it really tirelessly. We do 50-50 raffles. We do sober driving 3 to 4 nights a week and require everyone on our team to do it with a co-pilot and make a bunch of money. But all of these efforts are really small, and they take a lot of work, and they don't really yield a lot of results. Each one of them only makes a small dent in the total cost that we're going to need to go on the trip. But we are working really hard on that, but we are going to need some help from USG if we're going to be able to make it there. Even restaurants like Wally's and Sergeant Pep's. Sergeant Pep's was, they said that we did the best fundraiser that they've ever had. They usually give people 10 to 15%. They told us 15. After our fundraiser was over, they changed their mind and decided to give us 20% even though they didn't need to because we did such a great job fundraising. So we are a really hardworking group of people. We have a long history of cultivating a culture of hard work, dedication, teamwork, and probably the most important is acceptance. We've got a really diverse group of people, and it's a really cool thing to be a part of. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Are there any questions regarding the motion? Senator Hooligans, Senator Rana, and Network.
Do you have a number around the amount that you fundraise for this and your members or dues, or have they made any amount of money going towards this event?
Our dues each semester, each member has to pay $75 to even come to practice. Those dues pretty much cover gas money to away meets because club sports doesn't really fund us for anything that a swim team would need. So, and they don't fund gas either. So that goes towards, everyone gets a team shirt that costs about $10, and we all carpool to all of our meets, even if they're down in Rutgers or Princeton or anything like that. Any money that we don't use from dues this year, instead of giving it back, we're putting it towards nationals. In terms of fundraisers, from Wally's, we're expecting to make about $150. From Sergeant Pep's, we're expecting to make about $450, which is insane for them. Sober Driving only makes about $50 a night, depending on the night, and our 50-50 raffle made us $50.
Are there any questions, Senator Rana?
How many people would you need absolutely to be able to make this meet possible? All 40 members, or is there like an acceptable amount?
We could conceivably compete with one member, but because swimming is a very individualized sport in terms of you could go and swim by yourself and you get a gold medal, you get 8 points, you still probably come in 65th out of 65 teams. But when it comes down to it, our team, even though it's an individual sport, something to understand about swimming and our team in particular is that we are a unit. We support each other. We have set relay teams that are used to starting off of each other. Everyone supports each other, and it really, even though everyone swims their own event, it kind of is an unbreakable team. We're very close.
Any other questions? Senator Giordino? Chairperson Giordino, and Senator Rana, and Network.
Under the past opening session, I think you were funded at the past opening session, you were funded 60%. 60% of your requested amount is $2,920.
Yeah, what we did was we had a meeting recently that not recently, the beginning of the semester, we found out that we got rejected, and we had an emergency required meeting for everyone on our team, and we told them, those of you who haven't been to nationals, here's what it is. Those of you who have, you know that you want everyone to go. Here's how urgent it is. Here's how much we're going to have to do for fundraising. Raise your hand if you'd be willing to pay this much out of pocket to go. Like, would you be able to swing this amount of money? And the more funding that we get, the more people are going to be able to pay for this trip out of their own pocket. There are a few people who, if they have to pay a certain amount, just don't have the money to go. But the more we get, the more people can come to this meet, and that's really our goal here.
How many people do you have on our roster?
On our roster, we have 47, but we have 40 on the request for this because we have 7 people who can't make it for things like rescheduling final exams.
Senator Gianfredi?
If you were granted this full amount, would you still be able to attend?
If we weren't granted the full amount, we would still be able to attend, but it would be in smaller numbers.
Anybody else with questions? Seeing none, we move into, Senator Alvarez?
If you were funded more than the recommended 60%, would you be able to bring all your members and fundraise the rest of it, depending on how much it was?
What that would probably be is everyone would probably be able to pay the remainder out of pocket combined with fundraising, because even in years past we have had to pay like maybe $40 out of pocket to make up for, because USG never funds 100%, as far as I understand. So in years past when they fund most of it, we have had to pay like 40 to 50 out of pocket before, and that's been fine. And with our fundraising, it does make a small difference with our fundraising.
Anybody else with questions? Senator Liddy?
We haven't really figured out the math on that yet. 300? Before the funding or after the funding? Okay, after the funding, we would probably have to pay about 300 out of pocket.
Anybody else with questions? Seeing none, we move into debate. Thank you, Senator Foster. Is there anybody who would like to vote against Senator Rana?
Well, I mean, obviously the legislation isn't at 60%, so I mean, if we could get a motion to change that to 60%, right? Or,
Yeah, there's a motion, is there a second to reduce to 60% salary? The motion is to amend the legislation to reflect a 60% reduction, which
40% reduction.
40% reduction, bring it down to 60%, which is $2,923.20. The amended amount is listed at the top where Chairperson Judy has it right now, $2,923.20. So, if I were to bring up the legislation, now we'll amend this amount to that's the motion to amend. Is there a second by Senator Liddy? Are there any questions regarding the motion? Seeing none, is there any debate?
Wait. This is a motion to amend?
This is a motion to amend.
It's a motion to amend, and we're in debate right now?
yeah.
Is this question time for amendments or?
They're usually
Debate time, okay.
for debate. Yeah, sure. Come on.
I was out of it for a second. One thing that I do want to say, for everyone that was doing the math on like the $300 out-of-pocket expense and adding it up to some crazy number, this request is only for lodging right now. There are a lot of other expenses that go into this trip for 40 some odd people. Buses, I don't know, registration fees.
Yeah.
Registration fees. Okay, so basically this is a trip for a whole swim team to go to Atlanta, Georgia, and this right now that we're funding is just lodging. So I just want to say, like, we should, personally I think that we should fund it to our fullest ability. I know that we have some budget restraints. We're at like $4,000 for a total. 5,000? 6,000. Okay. But anyways, I just think we should fund it to our fullest capacity. So that's what I want to say.
Yes, and Albert? For debate? Anybody else would like to direct answer debate?
I agree very, very much with Senator Bosco. I think if this group is already spending so much on all of their other things that they have to pay for, it's like they're already cutting below their full or 60% of what they're actually paying for. This is only for one section of their entire trip. I don't think we should cut it to 60%. I think we should do everything we possibly can to fund them as much as we can, because I think they're an important group to our school, and I think their pitch just now was one of the best that we've seen from any group, and I think we should do as much as we can to fund them everything we can.
Chairperson Love. Anybody else for debate? Mr. Arana.
I can yield the floor to you. Yeah. I'm yielding the floor.
Okay, club sports only funds, they don't fund lodging, they don't fund gas, they don't fund transportation, they don't fund items that don't stay with the school. For example, they don't fund our bathing suits because once you wear your suit, it's yours, because that'd kind of be weird. You don't pass it down. And that's with all of our equipment, so they would fund things like soccer balls, and the club soccer team uses that club soccer ball every single year. So club sports doesn't fund us for anything that we need for our sport. Yeah, we did apply. We have, what's the story on that?
We get $400 from Club Sports. Just
Oh yeah, we get $400 from Club Sports for the entire year, and those can only go towards registration fees, and we've already used those registration fees in our away meets that we've already been to.
Yeah, I have a related question. Could you, do you have the total amount for the registration fee?
I'm not sure if it's in the proposal that our CFO put out, but in years past, I can give you an estimate that it costs about $12,000 to $14,000.
I was just going to re-emphasize what Kevin said. I think that probably was the best pitch we've gotten since this whole funding thing started. You guys should think about what she was saying and how important she made her team sound. I mean, we've heard of other pitches. I'm not going to mention what other pitches were, but some of them haven't seemed important to me, and this one seems like it's very meaningful. And on account of we're not really funding them a lot, they're actually still spending a lot of money. I feel like this kind of is more meaningful than going back and paying somebody that we've already agreed we wouldn't do. So.
All right. I definitely agree with Alice and Kevin and Elliot, Chairperson Lowe, Senator Alvarez, and Senator Bosco. But we do have to consider that the total fund is $4,030. We have Taekwondo as well. If you recall, we tabled it. And even if we fund Taekwondo for their remaining practices at a highly discounted price of like $80 a practice, our numbers still go over $4,000, even with this at 60%. We need to come to some sort of resolution on what we're cutting, because something has to be cut. You know, we have $4,000, and even reduced, we're over it. So we have to cut something. We just have to figure out what that is. I definitely agree with Chairperson Lowe. This is a very, very important thing that we can do for them. But we're not here to judge whether one request is more important than the other. I mean, I'm not sure if we can put our own personal interest in this, whether we find that swimming may be more important than Taekwondo or vice versa. We can't determine that. We have to fund them based on our policies. And to be frank, I'm running the numbers and it doesn't look good.
Yeah, I just have a point of information. I just received an email from rescinding funding for the spring budgeting session, so we have $28,000.
Excellent. One more time.
228.6.
Again, we are debating the motion to amend down to 60%.
Just to bear in mind, the total amount there, whether or not you pass this amendment, great. But if you don't pass this amendment and then pass the request as originated, I cannot sign a check for more money than a committee has in its budget. So just bear that in mind, that you need to at least get it down to the number of the reserve fund. So, thank you.
Senator Liddy and Senator Grant. Senator Grant.
Okay. I agree with Senator Bosco. Mostly, I think that since the club team has had this funded for about 6 years, in the past, they deserve the priority in this. It's been stated that Taekwondo did not request the funding in the budgeting session. Clearly it's not a priority, and there is the issue that we would be funding past practices, which we've already decided we wouldn't do in the future. So I believe that we should support this bill in as much as we can to about the 4,030 and 92 cents.
Chairman Freddie? Thank you, sir.
I don't think that we can take history into account with this. We have new funding policies, so that means anything in the past funding that we did doesn't necessarily apply here. And, I mean, we paid Taekwondo's coach for years and years as well. It's not really fair to think of it that way. I think I had another one, but I don't remember it.
Senator Rana, I
I mean, I guess since it's in debate, technically I wouldn't be able to amend that, right? I can? Okay, so. Can I yield the floor to someone who knows it better though? Just wants to take care of it, right? Do you want to do it, Kara? Yeah, to the amount. Yield to Senator Rubens.
Whatever, he wants me to help him. Okay, so I motion to amend the amendment to the legislation to the amount in the reserve fund.
Second.
There you go.
Senator Alvarez, just to clarify, I would like to refer to the comptroller to give the total amount of the reserve fund.
As it stands, we have $4,259.54.
Senator Dugans, does that number agree with your amendment?
Does.
4,000.
$1,259.54.
Can you get that number and then put it down there? And is there a second? It was seconded by Senator Alvarez. All right, so now we are in debate, or first we have to do question, I guess. Questions regarding the amendment to the initial amendment. Is anybody confused? You guys don't count. I'm confused. All right, so what happened was, Senator Rana, I believe, was motion to amend it down to 60%. And during the course of the debate, I guess there was an invested interest in raising that amended amount back to the total amount of money that we have left, which Senator Dugans has verified is 4,200 and some change with the help of the comptroller. So now we're discussing whether we want to consider $4,000 or $2,900. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So now all the questions are going to be answered by Senator Dugans, who's going to answer questions regarding whether we should or shouldn't change it to 4,000. Yes, that's right.
Point of information, Mr. Speaker, can I ask a question to the comptroller?
You may.
If this is funded at the full percent, will there be any additional revenue for future Senates to be provided, or will there be zero?
I'm looking for some right now. On Monday, it's April 1st, that's when the round of requisitions are due. So now we'll have more information for the month of March as to who has not actually called in their budget allocation for that deadline. So we will know. If there is some, we'll more likely find out on Monday. Thank you.
Yep. So any questions regarding the motion to amend the amendment? In other words, any other questions for Kara? For Senator Dugans, sorry. Seeing none, we move into debate. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we move into a vote. Again, this vote is to amend the initial amendment to comptroller Bushing, please say the number again. $4,259.54. Okay? All those in favor of amending Senator Rana's amendment to $4,259.54, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions.
Abstain.
Passes. Okay? So now we are back in debate at Senator Rana's amendment, but at the amended amount of $4,259.54. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for debate? Yes, Senator Rana.
Debate regarding the amendment.
Yeah, no, debate regarding the legislation.
The amendment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yeah. We're back to the amendment. You're right. I'm sorry. That's my mistake.
Yes, we're back down.
So now we're voting.
Whether we should amend at all. This is the question. Whether we should amend at all.
Okay, once again, I'm going to reiterate that we can't leave one group out to dry because we feel like we have some sort of interest in another group. So we've already established that we don't want to retroactively fund a group. So the Taekwondo group had 41 practices or something like that, and 25 are already done. They have like 16 left. They're asking at a rate of 95 per practice. Even if you cut that down to 80 a practice, it still comes out to like $1,280. We have $4,259. Let's give them a piece, like some of it, you know? They can't be left out to dry completely, just as the swim group can't be left out to dry completely. We need to be fair, equitable, and make sure we can do the best for everyone, and not just the best for what we think is our interest.
Chief of Staff Shea, and then Senator putting in that order. And then Senator Alvarez. If you're all three on. Senator Violet would like to be on there too. And Senator Bosco.
When it comes to this situation, when we do this type of funding during Senate, oftentimes there are 8 groups coming up and the last group doesn't even get a chance to say anything. So when it comes to being fair, I appreciate the effort, but there's some groups that aren't even heard, and I like the way that we're doing this right now where we're able to hear both groups' parts, but it's not really about which group is more important, which one we like more or whatever. It's the fact that one group requested funding, wasn't able to get it because of insufficient funds, and the other group didn't request funding at all, and if they wanted to, should have, instead of coming here with the semester almost over and doing it. So it's not about like which one pitched better or which one has a bigger importance at school. It's the one that, there's one that requested funding, always has and still does, wasn't able to get it, is back here requesting a really small amount of what they need, and the other group didn't request funding until now. So I think we need to think about it that way, not about which one is important or whatever, but when it comes down to it being fair, this is the fair way, in my opinion.
Thank you, Chief of Staff Shea.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to say that is a great sales pitch. Like, I love it. I really do. So, you know, we have been debating for a while here, guys. The general consensus is that we're gonna fund the money. That's how it appears. So, I motion to call the previous question.
Previous question has been called. Is there a second by Senator Bosco? We go directly into a vote. All those in favor of calling the previous question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. Abstentions? It's called. The question is to adopt an act concerning funding. I'm sorry, just the amendment, rather. To adopt the amendment of Senator Rana at $4,459.54. All those in favor of adopting the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? The motion passes. The amount is amended to $4,259.54. We're going to start with a fresh speakers list because we're no longer debating the amendment. We are now debating the legislation. Senator Rana, and Alvarez.
Okay, so once again, let's try and get everybody some money. So I spoke to the Taekwondo group. They're willing to take a, not willing to take, that sounds really crazy. But they would be okay with having their coach paid $750 for the next 16 practices. With that situation, if we give all the money in the reserve fund to the swim group, we would be at $4,259.54. If we took out that $750, we'd be at $3,509.54. Still fairly sizable, and we can do something for more than just one group. So I'd motion to amend the legislation to $3,509.54. Sorry, guys.
Okay, what's the, can you give me
Yeah.
the number? This is seconded by Senator Manfredi. Are there any questions regarding the motion to amend? Seeing none, we move into debate. Is anybody who would like to be recognized for debate? Senator Rana?
Okay, before we go into amending things over and over again for personal, or not personal, but principle-wise and stuff, as Comptroller Corshane said, with the month closing and some groups not being able to possibly get the requisitions in, this means that the money that we did budget to certain groups is back into our reserve fund, which means that if we were to table an act concerning emergency funding for Taekwondo, they have the possibility of having their legislation presented at the next Senate with a reserve possibly being more than zero after today's requests. No, I'm not going to make any comment to change.
Senator Alvarez is next on the speaker's list.
I very much agree with Parth on that. Also with what Chief of Staff Shea said. Got it right. I feel if we actually look at the Taekwondo one, I know we shouldn't be comparing them to that extent right now, but we set a precedent that we don't retroactively do things, and I think what Parth's solution was, I think is the most effective one, so I don't think we should be changing anything with this right now. I think we should shoot down this thing to re-amend it and just go with the 4,200 and give them that because they deserve it right now, and I think it's very important that we give them that full amount, and then by next Senate, we might have more, / we probably will have more.
Senator Bosco?
I agree.
Anybody else for debate regarding Senator Rana's amendment to $3,509?
Motion to question.
All right, the previous question has been called. Is there a second, Senator Rana? We go straight into a vote. All those in favor of calling the previous question, the question again will be regarding the amendment Senator Rana proposed. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions. The previous question has been called. We're going to vote directly on Senator Rana's motion to amend to $3,509.54. All those in favor of approving Senator Rana's amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. Abstentions. Fails. All right, now we are back debating the same legislation at $4,259.54. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we move into a vote. The vote is to approve UConn Swim Club's funding. Please signify by saying aye if you are in favor of approving this motion. Aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? The motion passes. Next we move into an act concerning Taekwondo. Next we move into, hold on a second. We move into an act concerning funding for UConn Taekwondo, and you actually are the author, and so you have the floor. Yeah. Well, specifically to the next legislative item.
Yeah.
You have the floor.
Can I say
By unanimous consent? Alright, I'd like to suspend the rules and go back to the speaker's report by unanimous consent because I forgot a nomination. My bad. Alright, so we're back in the report of the speaker. I forgot a nomination. Senator Googins has stepped down from her position as nominations committee chair. The speaker, the nominations committee is responsible for selecting the judiciary. Because Senator Googins has stepped down, it's my job to nominate somebody else for this position. Senator Sargent is the nomination that I want to put before you guys for your consideration as chair of the nominations committee. When I thought about who should be nominated for the nominations committee chair, I thought about the most the least partisan, the most ethical person that I knew, and that was Senator Sargent. And so, if there are any questions regarding his nomination, I'd love to field them, and Senator Sargent also can field them. Does the nominee accept his nomination? All right. Are there any questions regarding the nomination? Yeah.
Who asked the question?
Either one. Yeah, you can come up.
What would you say, do you feel makes you bipartisan? Just curious.
Can you like, it's kind of like a broad question, can you kind of like, I mean, I'm always willing to work across the aisle if that's what you mean. I know it's kind of a cliche statement to say, but I'm always willing to hear both sides of someone's argument. Not necessarily, I don't know, bipartisan, not on a political level, but more on a USG level. I'm always willing to hear both sides of this argument, and I encourage people to hear both sides of their argument. So, in that sense, bipartisanship, yes.
What qualities do you look for in like justices?
Impartiality.
Give a little more detail besides being like impartial. What are like some honorable qualities that you think justices should have?
Honorable qualities? Yeah, I mean, I respect the judiciary to its fullest extent, and I think each and every one of those members have high honorable qualities. So just to possibly continue that precedent of having similar justices who have honorable qualities. To that, not to reiterate what you just said, but to that extent, yes. Looking for individuals who share the same characteristics as the current judiciary.
Are there any other questions for the nominee? I'm kind of speaker, and you should probably speaker. Yeah, Senator Bosco.
This is just as I am. So you would say you go both ways.
In what's the question?
Okay, all right. Was that a legitimate question, Senator Bosco?
That can go in so many ways.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I just want to reaffirm, because I know we're talking about bipartisanship and his ethics, and I just want to reemphasize that this is something that I'm attesting to. In other words, I feel really strongly about his impartiality. I feel really strongly about how nonpartisan he is and how impartial he is, and that's something that very clearly. But I feel. But if there are any other questions, otherwise we can move into debate. Okay, we can move into debate regarding the nomination. Is there anybody who'd like to be recognized for the debate? Seeing none, we move directly into a vote. All those in favor of approving Senator Sargent as chair of the nominations committee, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. Abstentions? Abstain. So we're done. We move into discussion. Is there anybody who would like to recognize for discussion? Seeing none, we move into announcements. Is there anybody who's
I've already gotten quite a few letters from a lot of you, so thank you for showing your interest for next year's executive committee. For those of you who haven't yet submitted a letter, you have until midnight tonight because we extended the deadline just in case anyone else wanted to show interest and send it in if they didn't get a chance to get it in for the first deadline. So midnight tonight is the cutoff, and I'll be seeing a few of you after the meeting. So. Nothing. We have received at least a letter for everything.